crime does not always mean ending up in jail. Often, alternative programs that do not involve being behind bars have higher success rates at keeping those convicted from getting into more trouble with the law. Alternate routes can cost less than the high fees that are paid for being in prison. As the American justice system deals with the epidemic of turning thieves into hardcore criminals in jail, different approaches may be able to turn the tide. The approaches are through fines, treatment and rehabilitation programs, home confinement, and community service. Wayne B. Black of Introduction to Criminal Justice states that an intermediate sanction is a program that deals with crime-related offenders. Occasionally, alternative methods are used unaccompanied or are joined with another method. The method is to provide reprimand, maintaining the best chances for rehabilitation and to serve the best concern of the community. They are often referred to as punishing in smarter ways. Sanctions can be non-residential or residential. In general, intermediate sanctions are less harsh than prison. The first simple alternative to jail time for small offense crimes is paying fines and restitution. Michelle Bowman of Crime Punishment and Prison Alternatives states that a crime is expensive. From the impact on victims, cost to society, and the criminal, money is involved. Fines paid to the level of government prosecuting the crime. Restitution is money that the defendant pays to the victim for their losses or damage. Fines are now being used more widely. Neil R. Pierce of Better Ways to Punish Criminals states that in Phoenix and Staten Island, New York, the new method for fining criminals is taking place. Fines are not only set by the severity of the crime, but also off of the offender's income as well. Fines are, when they are graduated, are easier and fairer. They are very easier to collect. Judges are more likely to choose fining the defendant versus putting a non-violent wrongdoer in an overly expensive jail cell. And fines are not the only alternate punishment. Treatment and rehabilitation programs are two other approaches to help improve the American justice system. These two different courses of action are aimed at turning delinquents into lawful citizens. There are different approaches to these programs. Treatment is teamed up with probation, inpatient management, or municipal sentencing. There are both incentives for progress and penalties for program violators. Gary Heiner, a program coordinator at Keystone Adolescent Center, states that treatment programs and rehabilitation leads to the best results. He believes that without the correct counseling and mental health treatment plans, criminals are more likely to reoffend. Probation can be a part of an alternate prison program. Probation is the suspension of a prison sentence. Along with probation, there's community sentencing or community control. Community control refers to placing a criminal in a form of highly controlled supervision within the municipal, and that is a fact from fine law. The technique is more preventative than probation. Programs such as community sentencing is tailored specifically to the goals and needs of each probate. Offenders are under intense and frequent supervision by probation officers. One officer is not given too many criminals and cases at one time. This is so that the offender can be monitored more by the officer. The criminal must also go through treatment programs that are drug or mental health related. There are treatment programs for mental health, sex, and drug offenders. In New Jersey, they are now using a firm but fair intensive supervision program. This program requires convicts to follow a strict curfew, drug refrainment, and employment rules. They are also to submit numerous spontaneous parole officer checks. At this point, the program's expenses are $6,700 per offender each year, while a prison cell costs around $25,000. Saving money and time is the main reason for this program in New Jersey. Another alternative to jail can even be home confinement. Home confinement is when an offender serves their terms of incarceration in their home environments. Home-based quarantine is used accurately by using electronic devices. A well-known device that many of us know about is the ankle bracelet. There are new electronic devices coming out that are such as the car ignition security for DUI, DWI offenses. House arrest is used for a variety of reasons. It can ultimately protect the community. Home confinement saves public monies and space in jail. This different approach meets the expectations of the public of just punishment for criminals. Another goal that the intermediate sanction of this is it serves in recognizing the advantages of keeping the offender in the community for reasons such as family ties, employment, and paying taxes. Home confinement has two different restriction methods. Home detention is where the offender must be at home, except for employment, education, and treatment. And the other would be home incarceration, where the offender is locked down in the home, except for medical emergencies. Now, general conditions of home confinement are frequent check-ins with the monitoring device or phone, daily contact with a probation officer, and the last would be random and frequent drug tests. The last approach that may be able to improve the American justice system is community service. Community service is unpaid work that an offender may take part in instead of jail. Community service ultimately helps benefit the community. The community service sentences include working in parks and hospitals. It also includes working in social service organizations ranging from 20 to 500 hours. This type of sentencing is generally associated with the statement that the punishment should fit the crime. An example would be if a criminal is charged with public vandalism in a park, the offender may be sentenced to work at his or her community park by cleaning it up. Heiner also comments on community service. He says that with close monitoring of community service, the programs seem to work. Heiner also states that this program works not only because it is making a difference to the criminal's life, but hopefully that he or she will take more pride in his or her community. After spending some of the offender's free time having to make the community a better place, the criminal will understand the importance of a well taken care of public. By researching this variety of intermediate sanctions in the United States, use and replace of incarceration, combining two or more of the approaches appear to be the best choice that leads to the greatest results. Having criminals receive daily counseling, work in the community, and learning to live on their own, they may one day be as productive, active members of society. Finding the criminal is a very reasonable option to use as a punishment only if he or she can afford this type of intermediate sanction. Treatment and rehabilitation programs will work only if the offender is persistent and partaking in the inpatient or outpatient courses. Home confinement should meet accommodations that let the offender still live as normal as possible. And last, community service should be used only for offenders who have committed a crime that correlates directly with the community. There are other ways that the United States can punish criminals. There are better methods to prevent criminals from reoffending. The ways we can do this are through the fines, treatment programs and rehabilitation, home confinement, and community service. Not all crimes are committed the same, so not all punishments should be the same. Each intermediate sanction can be effective only if judges in America correctly set up each individual with a program to meet his or her needs. Nothing in society is permanent. Technology is constantly changing the way we live our everyday lives. Society should invest more time into looking into better ways to not only punish the criminals, but also to correct the ones who need it the most. These are all of the intermediate sanctions that I have researched. There are many more to be discovered in the future, and thank you for listening.